It was one of those nights in Lagos, where the air was thick with the promise of rain, but the storm refused to break. The streets were alive with the sounds of laughter, music, and the distant honks of downforce weaving through traffic. But in the small apartment Ayo had rented in Surale, time seemed to pause. Ayo had spent the entire afternoon thinking about her. His heartbeat always raced whenever he imagined her wide smile and the way her eyes seemed to light up when she laughed. Zainab. Her name felt like a song in his mouth, a melody that stayed long after the music had ended. She had promised to come over that evening, and Ayo had spent hours trying to prepare everything just right. Soft music playing from a speaker, the scent of fresh lilies drifting through the room, and the flickering light of candles casting golden shadows on the walls. When she finally knocked on his door, Ayo found himself momentarily breathless. Zainab stood in the dim hallway, a vision of beauty wrapped in a simple dress that hugged her curves and left her caramel skin glowing under the warm light. Her braids were piled atop her head, framing her radiant face, and her lips curved into a smile that sent a jolt of warmth straight to his heart. "Ayo," she said, her voice soft, her eyes dancing with something he couldn't quite name. "Zainab," he whispered, his voice almost reverent. He stepped aside to let her in, his hand grazing hers as she passed. Even that slight touch sent electricity sparking between them, and he struggled to steady his breathing. She glanced around, taking in the effort he had put into the ambience, and her smile widened. "You did all this?" she asked, her voice teasing yet warm. He laughed, rubbing the back of his neck. "Yeah, well, I wanted tonight to be special." Her eyes softened, and she stepped closer to him, her perfume wrapping around him like an embrace. "You're already making it special." Ayo swallowed hard, his gaze locked on hers. He reached for her hand, threading his fingers through hers, and marveled at how perfectly they fit together. He took a step closer, feeling the tension, the anticipation, building between them. Her lips parted slightly, her breath coming in soft, shallow waves, and he couldn't hold back any longer. He reached up, cupping her face in his hands, and leaned in. Their lips met, soft and gentle at first, like a question, a test. Her mouth tasted sweet, a mix of honey and something intoxicatingly Zainab. He kissed her slowly, savoring the moment, feeling every second stretch out like eternity. Her hand slid up his chest, clutching the fabric of his shirt as she leaned into him, her body pressing close. The kiss deepened, and everything else seemed to vanish, the noise from the street, the flicker of candlelight, the weight of the world. It was just them, standing together in that small apartment, hearts pounding in perfect rhythm. Ayo's hands slid from her face to her waist, pulling her closer, feeling the warmth of her body through the thin fabric of her dress. She responded with equal intensity, her fingers tangling in his hair as she pressed herself against him. "Zainab," he murmured against her lips, his voice husky with desire. She pulled back slightly, her eyes meeting his, dark with longing. "Ayo," she whispered, her voice a soft caress. Her gaze flicked to his lips, and she leaned in again, her mouth finding his with renewed passion. Her kiss was fiercer this time, more urgent, and Ayo felt his heart race faster. His hands roamed up her back, tracing the curve of her spine, and he reveled in the way she shivered under his touch. She broke the kiss, only to trail her lips along his jaw, down his neck, leaving a trail of warmth in her wake. Ayo closed his eyes, his head tilting back as he surrendered to the sensation. Her lips were soft and teasing, and each kiss made his skin feel like it was on fire. He tightened his hold on her, pressing her even closer, until there was no space left between them. The rain finally began to fall outside, tapping gently against the window, but the storm inside the apartment had already broken. Ayo moved them backward until Zainab's back pressed against the wall. He leaned over her, his hands bracing on either side of her head, his lips hovering just inches from hers. They were both breathing hard, their eyes locked in a silent exchange that spoke of everything they had been holding back. "I've wanted this for so long," he confessed, his voice raw with emotion. Zainab's hands slid up to cup his face, her thumbs tracing the lines of his jaw. "Me too," she whispered, her voice steady, even as her heart beat wildly against her ribs. He captured her mouth again, this time with a hunger that had been building since the day he met her. Her lips parted beneath his, and he deepened the kiss, their tongues tangling, exploring, tasting. The intensity of it made his knees feel weak, but he didn't care. All that mattered was Zainab, the way she felt in his arms, the way she kissed him like she never wanted to stop. Her hands roamed over his chest, tracing the muscles beneath his shirt, and he felt his body respond, a rush of heat flooding through him. He kissed her harder, his hand sliding down to her hips, pulling her flush against him. Her soft moan was like music, and it only fueled the fire burning between them. His lips left hers to explore the curve of her neck, kissing and nibbling gently, and she tilted her head back, giving him better access. "Ayo," she sighed, her voice breathless and needy. He loved the sound of his name on her lips, loved the way she said it like a prayer. His hands found the hem of her dress, his fingers skimming over the smooth skin of her thighs. She gasped, her nails digging into his shoulders, and he paused, looking into her eyes for any sign of hesitation. What he found instead was a look of trust, of desire, that made his heart swell. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice gentle despite the storm raging inside him. She nodded, a smile playing at the corners of her lips. "More than okay." Ayo leaned in, pressing a kiss to her forehead, her cheek, the corner of her mouth, taking his time to savor every inch of her. Her laughter bubbled up, soft and sweet, and he couldn't help but smile against her skin. They kissed again, slower this time, exploring each other with a tenderness that left them both breathless. Outside, the rain poured harder, a steady rhythm that matched the beating of their hearts. In that small apartment in Suraleh, Ayo and Zainab found a world of their own, one where time moved slowly, and love was a storm that left them drenched, but whole. Please like this video. Leave a comment and subscribe to this channel for more interesting love stories.